Hello everybody and welcome to this, the third and final reading for this evening, and welcome also to our viewers online. My name is Xubín and I'm really delighted to be introducing three fantastic poets to you. We have Xubín from A Coruña in Galicia, and we have Allie Rigby, who is joining us from Zoom. You can see her on the screen behind me, and Jennie Feldman. So first I'll say a few words about Isaac. So Xubín is from A Coruña in Galicia, Spain. He has 3 poetry collections, and he's also translated numerous things from Basque, Catalan, Spanish, Irish and English. And he has brought a very special treat for us tonight also. He's going to play the Galician pipes. So please make a warm welcome for Xubín.
Assumiràs la veu d'un poble i serà la veu del teu poble i seràs per a sempre poble. I patiràs i esperaràs i aniràs sempre entre la pols, et seguirà una polseguera. Tindràs fam i tindràs set. No podràs escriure els poemes i callaràs tota la nit mentre dormen les teves genes. I tu sols estaràs despert. I tu estaràs despert per a tots. No t'han parit per a dormir. Et parirem per a vetllar la llarga nit del teu poble. Tu seràs la paraula viva i amarga. Ja no existiran les paraules sinó l'home assumint la pena del seu poble i és un silenci. Deixaràs de comptar les síl·labes, de fer-te el nus de la corbata. Seràs un poble caminant entre una amarga polseguera, vida amunt, nacions amunt, una enaltida condició. No tot serà però silenci. Que diràs la paraula justa, la diràs en el moment just. No diràs la teva paraula amb voluntat d'antologia, que la diràs honestament, iradament, sense pensar en cap hostilitat com no sigui la del teu poble. Potser et matin, potser s'enriguin, potser et dilaten, tot això són banalitats. Allò que val és la consciència de ser, no ser res, sinó ser poble, i tu greument has escollit. Després del teu silenci estricte, camines decididament. Teño unha casiña branca na mariña entre loureiros. Teño paz e teño amor. Estou vivindo no ceo. Ay la lelo, ay la lelo, ay la lelo, ay la lalo. Adeus miña casiña, portelo do meu quinteiro, auga da miña fontiña, sombra do meu laranxeiro. Ai la lelo, ai la lalo, ai la lelo, ai la lalo. Agora que me as pedriñas chorarán, chora de pedras a noite, que me vou pola lelo, ay, la lelo. Ay, la lelo, ay, la lo. Nacer en Inishmore, co océano a zoupar nos ollos e a meterse sen remedio polas caleixas de son ou furnas que forman os oídos. Nacer ali, e saber o que é as ondas penetrar o vento, e soñar con cabalos a penetrar o vento durante kilómetros e kilómetros e kilómetros, sen sentilo burrer nas pedras, como se fose un topónimo pequeno a renacer noutras pequenas linguas que nunca soñaran resistir. Vivir en Inishmore, na do medio ou na do leste, soñar penetracións rubias arrentes da erva e sentir o bico da lúa que te pica de golpe na tempa esquerda, para lembrar que non é todo verde nesta illa, que tamén existe a cor vermella se vives en Inishmore, a desexar a visión eterna da muller de Clare. A subía metálica a billa de cervexa para deitar no vaso o líquido que servirá de mesa os tallos nos recunchos da taberna. Eu bebía na chantaxe emocional da ferramenta, do arado cando non quere avanzar, e a rella que tropeza cos crollos soterrados. A frustración, a decepción de non sumir na inercia a lingua cos dendóns das mans e avanzar polas follas paseniño como os bois. Eu non lembraba o camiño da tinta, o anzo como berce ou verme no bico caendo do labio. Eu non recordaba as orelleiras do arado besando nos papéis para deitar nos sucos o que é sublimo da derrota cando afoga. E agora que estou perante a presenza irlandesa da Stout, na mentres agardo a que a escuma calle no bordo da medida, son consciente de que teño medo a non ser abondo rápido para executar os meus pecados, de que a lingua é un delirio e de que as cousas importantes empezan cando todo se ven abaixo. Ishfaleme moimi oimi, Ishfaleme moimi valyamexi, Ishfaleme piesas cosi, Moli agua nicolina, Ishfaleme piesas cosi, Moli agua nicolina. The teacher spoke, and she said that the lampreys caress the skin of the Galician poets who commit suicide in the dark of night with ox eyes, lying down on Irish bonfires, and who live drowned beneath the waters of the Ulla, of the Sar, of the Sarela, and of other rivers that flow out in jumped descents, coffee with whiskey, and certain aesthetics impulses that continue with a wet knife blade that never gives anything. And she also said that they exist, that they live in the high sea, some wild, enormous sea vases, that knows the loveliest depth of Grande de Suria River and of other waters that smell of gunpowder, of headbutts against the jail, and of bodily fluids that exude visceral life and eternity with dignity. And that's why in Galicia, the lamprey tastes of grass, the saliva of the poets born in the most humid triangle of the Terra de Iria, and the skin of the girl who curls herself on the naked stones of Arousa, there where the revolution could begin to open its mouth. And here you have the horses, my teacher, the horses of all iron, invading the furrows and the words inscribed on the edges of the stones by the hands of those ancients, swallowing crustaceans and mollusks with without knowing that the calcium of the journey drowned in the heart of their bones. Here you have the bread and the meat, my teacher, the butter and the milk, the cows of all Ireland, all of them upon mountains, eating the green memory of millennial death, of astonished sailors who had already dreamed of the youth fucking in the fields in the time when serpents still inhabited the island. Here you have the salmons, my teacher, the red muscles of the salmons, like a broken inheritance, a Celtic place named in the language of the Galicians, bleeding on the upstream current of the whole island, transporting through the beats the revolutions that are the feet of the islands yet to be born. And I, my teacher, I'm here listening to my own loneliness in the bus and tracing of this paper across the paper. I, my teacher, I am wringing myself out, slipping across my own almorphs, sticking my hands, my tongue, my inks in the terrible path that is time with hope. This path branching many routes which all seem certain. This place where so many women of other days already made me fall from pain and spells in farewells. And the route split onto its most intimate part of my profound youth. Here you have my teacher, Victory, the way back home.
Thank you so much, Isaac. I have to say, I love it when people bring music together with the poetry. It just takes it to a whole new level. And there, I absolutely could immediately picture girls dancing outside. It was like, ooh, it's winter time, but it was summer in my brain. That was lovely. Thank you, Isaac. So now, next up, we have Allie Rigby. Allie Rigby is a San Francisco Bay Area poet and creative writing teacher. She received a master's degree in creative writing this year. Congratulations, Allie. And also her debut poetry collection, Moonscape for a Child, is going to be released in 2023, and it was published by Bored Wolves. So congratulations again. I can't wait to hear your poems. Please put your hands together for Allie Rigby.
Thank you. It's an absolute honor to be here. And yes, I'm a San Francisco poet, and I had the opportunity to teach creative writing for a year in Romania via a Fulbright grant. So, bună seara, noapte bună pentru prietena mea din Romania. And no, it's an absolute honor. I feel like Cork in particular, and more broadly speaking, Ireland has such a special appreciation of poetry, and it's just a really huge honor to be a part of this. So I'll read some poems from Moonscape for a Child. Thank you for being here. And I'm seeing the live audience in the room, and I know there's folks joining virtually. So thank you for being here. Burnt rice. It's a broken leg, as in not my fault. The reason I put food on the stove and forgot it, I existed, which is to say that I existed once as a fish. When you called me into the room to say I burnt the rice, I faded blue. More blue living, blue dreaming. The days we harvested oxygen in water like God. On the paper heart in my pocket. What else to fill a grieving heart? I am not ready to lose anyone else I love. Flecked with wildflower seeds, mother grief begs to be planted. Walking, ruminating. How the dogs these days are slicked with rain, belt area combed neat, bowels exposed, roadside woes and smashed caps, mint icebreakers, sycamore leaves, leftover citrus, wet cardboard boxes, unfinished yard projects, how we are all unfinished yard projects, etc. of the pandemic. And now I'm thinking that the dead dog could have been a coyote, which explains the quiet. This next poem, as mentioned, these are all from Moonscape for a Child. Late March. This is the only poem I'll give context to. In Petaluma, actually, yeah, there's several San Francisco Bay Area poets, and Forrest Gander and I are both specific to the North Bay of San Francisco. So it's also an honor to read with them as part of this festival. During the pandemic, we had a tradition of 8 p.m. sharp. People would step outside on their balcony and just howl madly. I don't know if it was like coyotes or wolves, but it went on for about 5 minutes every evening at 8 p.m. And I swear it's one of the few things that almost kept me sane during the initial days of lockdown. And unfortunately, the tradition didn't last beyond maybe 4 months, but it was special as it did last. Late March. She can hear the coyotes from her porch, a neighborhood on fire. We howl like dogs, God's dogs, and somewhere deep in the oak woodland chaparral, she prays they howl back. Orange peel. I spoke one tone last night, as I do when sad, like a dog. It's been a lot, I'm fine. A lamp in dust still works. Hard to read much this March. I peel fruit now like a lemur, eyes open for asteroids. Signal. She is in the presence of several little listens. Clearing of throat, move the stiff scorpion lodged in the boot of mouth where epiglottis flicks up and down like a broken light switch. She cannot ignore the passage of claw. What is this scratch of throat? A vocalized wisp from stomach to esophagus. Give the sign. She has a sound. Bless the crickets and the kick of red dust on a warm night. Big creatures need corridors to migrate. She has a sound, an inkling. August. There are fires everywhere. Propane mules, flickering lights. How the winds are always at the wrong. And time to burst memories like soap duds. Try not to breathe the smoke. Memory is a heavy bird. Dirt lines the sink from the houseplants. Our landlord will be upset about that. Never mind the pot of milk that could be paint stewing. No hint of coagulation. We blame the rotten, but cheese was just a craving, just something to do, just a taste of home. Today, home is the broken dirt clod. Tomorrow, summer will end when the landlord rips out the sweet peas I planted. Well, now it's winter and the milk is still milk. It never became cheese. Like the acorn that is not the oak. Like the grape that is not the wine. Like the ash that is not the fire. Healing is no end goal. There are no fence posts here. You can blame the dead, but it won't make them speak. Symbols. We walk together, wondering how to get published now that so many of us are dead. I do not know if they know. We are different in this way, but we stroll and conspire all night while I dream. Take this bohemian pack of 8 or so, mostly dead minus myself, talking avant-garde and literature and society by the river, and you would like to know if there is a way to get your ideas published still in circulation, and name, credits, and critiques, maybe a poetry reading or two. You know, this question poses an awful lot of logistics. How will I receive their works or know which poems belong to which ghost? Well, they have an answer for that too. Let us leave symbols, one proposes. An amethyst rock means it's so-and-so's, and a pencil means it's the tall lad's essay, etc., etc. And we almost agree on a method until someone reminds us how time differs. It could be a blink of an eye for us and 800 years for her, which I presume is me. And by then, even I know I will no longer be in this gray world, sitting at the computer, drinking tepid coffee and stalling, no, trying to remember what it was they wanted me to say. Mouse fear. Forest is where she goes to eat, pine needles snacked. She snacks on what she loves, and she loves ambered sap, glue on fingers. Eat is when she leaves to lonely, and she lonely is when she pushes, shoves like a scared mouse. She can be gone like dewdrops on mid-morning, warm, anxious, green. Gone is where she goes to hide, and she gones when she fears. She fears lonely, and it's easy to gone, much easy in gone. And she gones each time when she is too low to not gone, too tired to not, too low, long gone, scared little mouse when she goes, and she's gone to wet forest to eat. Okay, I'm really scrolling through my manuscripts. Again, coming out in 2023. Thank you to Board Wolves. So you all get a good feel. Smooth still. Our orange ranunculus dropped its petals like a soft feather war, a dead firebird, a phoenix on the ground. Smooth still, like the milk, puddles lining the sink. You see, we boiled a thing and it remains, like homesickness, like depression, like ants coming in from the rain. You say dor, it rolls into the room. We watch the dead firebird glowing, perhaps overwatered and burning still, that sweet aching flower. We are home now all the time, inspecting spider dust and cracks in the tile. I sob every movie, every show. This is nothing new. Like a mother. The hummingbirds no longer frequent the glass tube holding clear, sugary water. When I boiled food for them like a mother, I waited for the goo to cool before pouring it down a neck like cough syrup and attaching macrame to thwart the neighborhood cats. My sister, not pleased to watch the place and refill the feeders, finds the regression off-putting, unpredictable. I am desperate for the flash of a ruby throat. You see, the first time I hung a feeder, they rejected me until I perfected the recipe. They don't like it too sweet. In quarantine, they drained each tube. Now they don't want anything to do with me. Or have they all gone? Dreams are rich. I call my mom from purgatory, fallen from a canoe into ice, and I watched bystanders peer over the lip as I sank into warm, drowsy sleep, flipped hard on the freeway exit, swerving into gravel, piled high, and walked many, many nights, fumbled with broken phones, and tried to call my mom. I don't know where I am. Mom, I don't know where I am. Well, she could not hear me well, and I've sat in fiery circles next to strangers during hostage attacks and held strangers' hands as we made do with death and bullets. I am the protective mom in these final moments. That is the theme here. And when pressure builds at the base of my skull as the plane is really going down this time, sleep is a wakeful bear. I am a wakeful ghost. And so when my mother loses her mother and my dad sees ghosts, I make tea and hear a drunk man singing on B Street and trade the nightmare film crew in my brain for ghost mediumship. Wouldn't that be nice? What I'm saying is that everything hurts like a mother because it already hurt like a mother before the deaths and the deaths and the deaths. And now the birds disregarded the sugar, and I have lost the residue of purpose from a time when women were birds, and all the birds. So when my grandmother died, so did a flapping in my chest. I said goodbye on the phone because COVID times, and Gram didn't speak. But they say she smiled when she heard my voice. Yes, softer than the news. She smiled, so I have that. I'm mad that we utter words at funerals that we should have said at birthdays. Not that life is the opposite to death, or that an absence of death equals heaven. I just wish more that during the life part, we had said those words. Graham went sweetly, I am told. Permission. My students are screaming at the screen, showing the snout of an acorn weevil, or perhaps they are bored and just squealing to make a sound. We search Google for videos of how they drill into acorns with their eerie, monotonous precision, the tap of a long, thin snout. When the world is on fire, we plant acorns, or rather we plant anything to see if anything takes root in soil that is dry and crumbly, like cobbler crust. That year, we raised 8 oaks, weekly water, sun. By March, there was only one. This sprouted oak had candy green leaves and little chopstick trunk. By May, we find the oak torn from its pot, withering in the sun, trunk twisted like rope. Well, the world is on fire and the blame games begin. First grade anger is no quiet storm. And we stop the blame game because I know that whoever did it, and I do know who did it, meant no harm. He got mad, and that was that. Next year, I might hide the seedlings, sneak the sprouts home, water them in secret. No, we will try again. We will find a way. The world is on fire, and some of us need permission to thrive. Yes, that's what I will say. I have a few more here. Okay. This series was written in the Chiricahua Mountains area of Arizona. Snap once if you can hear me. No birds this black morning. No mockingbird cries, starling alarms to provoke me. I need a good feather fight in the eucalyptus to keep these coffee-stained teeth awake. I miss mouse peeling eyelids open, strips of wallpaper lifting cold eyelash. I hear rain and only rain. She taps junipers, taps steel roofs, taps black ants, delivery. Kangaroo rats scatter to red caves, wet heads. I am awake, but I am the oak leaf curled, a dried turtle shell waving two infant arms at sky. Morse code could not crack this lightning. I am a stranger in these mountains. Last month, a jaguar, lichen lace, stepped into Arizona from Mexico. She ripped strips of wall to get in, trusted her tired, bleeding paws, and soft pink tongue swept the desert clean. The keep out is not jaguar, is not American, but it also is. Look at the history. Look at the walls built, the children separated, the hatred so embedded, and yet the dust can settle in other ways, can it not? What cost is a gentle open door? Come in, I pray. A dark morning and the knocking never stops. Come in, I say. Come in, come in, come in. As if the desert taught me this one thing. Come in. Okay. Two more. Why I was late to work. I am the woman who doesn't want to be found today, and you sit here listening. So I will try to explain once more. Stay close. The fog makes me tired until I'm too tired to be tired. The flicker of hope, that big city feeling, the ant people, the magnifying glasses, the Bay Bridge at night, those with street homes, those with big homes, the foodies and the foodless. Salesforce mottos, Salesforce scraping sky. Money, money, money. Breathing on land is not easy. I tell the reader again how I was born a fish. All right, and this last one is actually the last poem in the manuscript, so it's a perfect place to end this reading. On raising good words. Many women have me. They used the lead to cry out, pumping their arms to leaven the bread. How it never settled their hunger. Flour dusted the floor where their minds kneaded dough, sleeves wet with ink, staining the counters, separating eggs to let the gold remain. One day I will trust my own writing. I will stop asking the greats to whisper, praise, or appear in dreams. I wish for your words to build worlds. I wish for you to be the fire and the starter. I wish for you to burn down your poems and trust what remains. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Allie, for your beautiful words. I hope you can hear that round of applause because it's really hearty. I'm looking forward to holding your collection, and I imagine plenty of other people in this room are too, so good luck with that. I'd love to howl like a coyote on your behalf, but I'm not sure the microphone will take it, but maybe later tonight outside I will give that a go. So next up we have Jennie Feldman. And Jennie Feldman grew up in London and studied French in Oxford. She has 3 poetry collections as well as numerous translations of French poetry and prose. And her most recent poetry collection was published by ARC this year in 2022, and it's called No Cherry Time, and we have it on the table over there. Aren't you all very lucky? So please put your warm hands together for Jennie Feldman.
Hello, everybody. I'm really delighted to be taking part in this celebration of poetry. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, good. And along with my fellow ARC poet, Pippa, who's going to be reading tomorrow, and our wonderful editors, Tony and Angela at ARC Publications, who are here this evening. And thank you to Paul and everybody who has made this happen. It's wonderful. I'm going to start locally. Sorry, I'm just going to have a swig of water first. Okay, sorry. I'm going to start locally. That is in West Cork, where some of the poems in this collection come from. So imagine, if you will, that you're walking along a deserted country road at night, and you're feeling a bit out of sorts, and there comes into view an apparition, a house with lighted windows and sounds coming out of it. You can guess what it is. On night roads, ghosted by voices, drum, guitar, fiddle, lit places on night roads take you in and don't. Some of you, part of you waits in the rain, not singing the unfelt words you're belting out with the shining faces, would go but for that canny beat, tapping unguarded spaces. This next poem is really a series of impressions, mostly from hereabouts. Open notes. As if this green, the puzzle of it, sway and layer, rain needling the river, could catch our drift. Coots don't care, leaf rot inching the cold idea of summer, one way or the other. Oh, great oaks, revolving rootedness, keep us in sight until mist and curve rob us out. Cockerels, cramped arpeggio, shut up in the hen house, mourning no glory. We on the bluff, parenthetical in bracken, boats rocking just enough to prove the haven. Lighthouse, what distances you keep for dark. I'm going to read a short poem from Jerusalem, where I lived for many years before coming back to the UK just a year ago. If any of you have spent time in Jerusalem, you'll know that it's a place of particular intensity, where everything is charged with significance of some sort. Even the plants, the trees, the flowers, like this honeysuckle that greeted me one day as I was walking along. It was past its best, and it smelt strongly rather than sweetly, but it gave off a welcome cheerfulness. What sweet rot you talk, honeysuckle. Oh, it's called, sorry, the title, Brightside, in brackets, detail. What sweet rot you talk, honeysuckle, flagging on a wall to fruit done blooming. Memories, one by one, being lost, and still your pungent homilies in passing. Another short one. This was prompted by a particularly dark episode near Jerusalem, although actually it could have come from today's Ukraine or many other places in the world, sad to say. Hey shadow. Hey shadow, will you let go now? Cherry-stained season, all the songs thick-booted falling in. Here come night cats. Death on wheels by a whisker mist has dumped more names in the dark, barely lived in, difficult to pronounce. The Jerusalem neighborhood where we lived was on the southeast edge of the city, bordering the West Bank. And until recently, there was a very extensive cherry orchard running all along the ridge. It was a place where I loved to go walking, especially in the spring. But returning there after a long absence once, I saw that the cherry trees, wherever I looked, had been cut down. It was to make way for a housing project, and it said so much. No cherry time. Otherwise lovely, the branches flung in rows you walk. See early spurts of blossom, how bright on the flinty soil. This hillside studded with O's of ochre stumps, giving up, count the rings, their half-score years. How the light hums with the busy chainsaw, down where the orchard ends, where last winter's knee-deep snow floored you under a budding sky. And you saw it, the greatest show on earth, umpteen mid-pirouette sylphide blurring this slope, ecstatic stillness for applause. And now they've dropped, limbs awry, how to forget the dance. Among stray twigs, one stumbling bee looks lost. Wasn't this the spot? Fumbles, staggers, takes off with the bad news to ghost hives under the cypresses. Pick up remnants of old seasons, black as biblical olives, the stalks insisting, cherry, cherry. In your palm, making much of the wrist's brief throbbing, the contrapuntal whistle and flit of migrant warblers in and out of the green's dismembered rustling. This thin air we stand on, where the pit's already plotted, the deadpan concrete. Out of a fold in the hill, a hatted man strides, gives no answer to your greeting. One of you doesn't exist. Stone on stone on stone, the hands that laid this terrace wall, long gone to bone. Half-wild almonds rooting its base so the world won't slide. To be in no time clawed out, knocked flat. Heavy the leaving, crammed pockets clicking with almonds as you walk. A good stone in your hand to crack them, chew on what we're losing as night comes. Find true north, pinned in a blink, unsinking. How long till the bulbul pipes up, tunes a dawn chortle to perfection, makes nothing of faint rumbles, scrapings, peeping reversals, where a hillside's being shaken out of the dream. Edward Lear is a name that we usually associate with the much-loved nonsense verses like The Owl and the Pussycat, but actually he was also a very accomplished artist. His career as a painter started painting commissioned works, mainly of birds, parrots mostly, and something that he excelled at, although he found it very boring. But much later in life, he produced a series of what he called imaginary colored birds. These were done in pen and ink and watercolor for the young children of friends of his. There's the pink bird, the red bird, the grey bird. You can actually find them on the internet if you look, if you're interested. They're sort of cartoonish and melancholic in a whimsical sort of way. And when you know something about his life, how very difficult it was, just briefly, he was the youngest of 21 children and was sent away from home at a very early age. All his life, he's suffered from ill health and depression and loneliness. When you know that background, you can't help seeing in these birds something autobiographical. There are 4 of them in this book, as poems in the book. So here's one, The Black and White Bird. Lifted birdily out of the sober quirks of sadness, not to be weighed down. Forget the palette, the easel hours, stuck sitting like a petrified gorilla. Here's quick strokes, dark washes, poised ambiguities, landing, taking off. One bright eye, unfailing, dares an old man's wing-sprung, bespectacled, spherical and bearded, comic poetical self to find grace in the fine uncertainties. Okay, next we're hopping over to Greece. I should just explain that the book is in 3 parts, more or less geographical. The first part is Israel-Palestine, and then the UK and Ireland in the middle, and finally Greece and France. So, if you've ever been to Chania in Greece and the archaeological museum there, you may have noticed a small toy on wheels, which was found in the tomb of a child. And it's what gave me this poem. At least it was the starting point of the poem. Crete. That a child's clay ox, goggle-eyed pull along from the afterlife, trails some lost joy behind you, and an anchor tall as 2 men, puny against the crazed and pocked seaward Byzantine wall, even so props it, that they've nailed in a row cast-off doors in the Evraiki quarter. Such things add up as you lean to pull in the shutters. Okay, we're off to Paris. Along the left bank of the Seine, there's a street which is named for the famous writer who spent the last phase of his life there. And I once had a memorable encounter with a man who was fishing on the quayside. Quai Voltaire. Carved in stone, his scowl could be up there with the gargoyles on the Pont Neuf. Crapaud, he growls, reels in a twisting slip of silver, drops it into a bucket, and waves me off. Crapaud! Glints from tall windows where the great man took in the scene and died. Heaven lies in a puddle where 2 pigeons drink head first, the world blinked out, doing it by turns, just in case. Just 2 more, perhaps. Like many people, I love traveling by train. It's a form of travel that seems to have a metaphysics all its own, to do with escape, discovery, even revelation. And this poem takes the high-speed TGV from Paris to Marseille. Just before it reaches its destination, it goes into a tunnel and then emerges as it reaches its destination, as it arrives. On the TGV, that's the train de grande vitesse, the high-speed train. The thing is, the angel murmured, disappearing through that casement, word given, the moment framed, to climb out, find a ticket, hitch on, skim the land due south as it swells on the left, darkly higher to mountains, vineyards combing out, farmsteads in their fields rock-weighted, the loopy Rhone we leap, again past silver blossom on gusted trees, eye-socket caves on the ridge, and the river now thinning to shoals, braidings, all but over, and sudden night blinds the life of us deeply, as if no angel, no breath, no climbing ever out. And sky, old blue, which art in heaven, back again, cranes in their lofty purpose, and that glitter quite beside ourselves, the sea. And well, finish in Oxford, which is where I arrived from today. Quite often these days, one meets a person who you think feels at home and belongs, and then you discover that actually their heart and soul are somewhere else entirely, very far away. And that's what happened when I struck up conversation with this Albanian taxi driver. To Oxford Station. Just past All Souls, we veer to high mountains, an accented village pinned by words on the brink. Fierce longing creases his grey stubble. Even in summer, water like ice from the tap, wild figs, plums, strawberries, mountain tea, good for everything, yes, but who doesn't grow old? Next spring he will go back, or the next. This city already a dot on a speckled island, exile's profile beside me, circling the sea between the lands. Here we are, he says mildly, turns off the meter. Sea between the lands, of course, is the Mediterranean. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jenny. You really took us on a lovely journey to different places, and your voice is so soft and gentle. I felt very safe in your words, and thank you. And I'd like to invite you up here now for a few minutes. I have just a couple of questions for you. And I'll give the questions to this mic so that, Allie, you can hear me properly. So my first question is a little bit tricky, I guess. It's something that's been playing on my mind a little. So this week, or maybe a week and a half ago, her first name's just popped out of my head, but Churchill, the amazing playwright Carol Churchill, had the European Drama Award for her lifetime of amazing work that she's gifted us, revoked because of her political views, which is interesting. And I guess we live in a time as well in the last couple of years where writers have met hostility for their personal views and their political views, and cancel culture is a real thing, I guess, and a worry for artists. Maybe it's a good thing, you know, I guess it does have a positive side to it, but also not such a positive side to it. And I would like to ask the poets tonight if the threat of cancel culture has changed how or what you choose to write. And I'm going to go with Allie first, if that's okay.
Starting with an easy question and putting me first. Okay. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. Well, no, I make that joke. It's a hard question, but a good one. I'm obviously speaking from personal experience as a California-based poet and human, and I have to confess that I'm not familiar with the exact details of Carolyn Churchill, so I will look it up and be better educated on that particular situation. Regarding what I can speak to as my impression of cancel culture in America, I personally have experienced it as something that feels real and scary, but has not had long-term ramifications for authors of identities that have historically held power. So my own feeling about cancel culture is that if you are still speaking from a position of power, which historically in publishing, again, in America, has meant white, straight, male voices, that cancel culture, you know, maybe you do lose some Twitter followers, and you do have I think in this other way, you have a divide of, you know, maybe you say one thing and it was out of context and there's not a chance to have a conversation about it. I do feel like, again, I'm thinking about like J.K. Rowling and authors that have maybe gotten feedback of being canceled, but when it comes to their actual sales are still doing fine. And maybe it's now controversial to have them hosted in a bookstore, but in terms of making money as a writer, they're doing okay. So my own feeling, coming as a poet, also historically poets, we don't make money as a poet, so the threat of being canceled is even lower. That's whoever said there's no money in poetry, but there's no poetry and money either. If someone remembers who said that, please feel free to share. I'm speaking from a position of, I do feel like poets have a little more freedom to try to find the gray area. And I feel like poets in general, we hold complexity and truth. And I feel like, again, one of my goals as a poet is just to keep conversations happening. I feel like that's really important. And in America, we're super polarized. I'm not exactly familiar with the Irish political scene. I'm sure it's just as complex. My personal opinion is, as a writer, again, maybe if you are in a historical place of power in America, cancel culture does not have long-term ramifications that I have been aware of. I'm really curious to see what folks share. And again, it's a complicated question. Thank you for it. It's really important to talk about.
Thank you, Allie. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. Somebody has to go first, I suppose. So next, Isa, would you mind?
Okay, I don't know if I'm answering your question with this, but for example, in Galicia, just the fact that you are writing in Galician and speaking Galician, that is just a statement about how do you think about the society and values in your country. And in the other hand, something that I think is related with this, what I'm feeling, at least in Galician literature, is that nowadays morality is too much in the aim of some artists. I mean, a good fiction work is a work who explains the story of a good guy doing good things. If not, it's not acceptable. I don't know if it's related with the topic.
Well, I suppose what I'm interested in is kind of if the threat of cancel culture, or I guess the atmosphere of it, has it changed how you yourself choose to write and what you maybe choose to write about? Like, you know, do you find yourself censoring yourself at all?
No, when I was raised as a speaker in Spanish language, so when I was 16 years old, I decided to speak Galician. If I don't want the language to die, I need to do something. So since that first step, I don't care about it.
Okay. Yay. Good. Jennie, would you mind responding?
I'll do my best. The cancel culture is something I'm still getting my head around, having spent, my time until now largely in Jerusalem, where people like my writers, thinkers, artists are struggling to be inclusive and to communicate across boundaries. That is the imperative there. And I think I'm sort of more on the wavelength with Isaac here, that one needs to take a stand, but not brutally in what you write. It's what you choose to write about reflects your concern. So for me, it is human relations, Jewish-Palestinian relations, human relations with nature. And I don't think that I would let anything deflect me from focusing on what's important to me, even if it were to mean that I would lose my hundreds of thousands of readers. So yes, I am for communicating, really, and for reaching out to other people's thoughts, stirring people into thought. That's what's important to me.
Thank you, Jennie. I 100% agree with you. That was a great answer. So I'll move on to my next question, which is not so tricky. So I guess Ovail, which is what's bringing this festival to you. That's kind of where I found my poetic voice and my poetic community. We are very much a community, and it's a thing I love most about it is that sense of inclusion, where you can get somebody up reading a poem for the very first time next to somebody who maybe has 3-4 books behind them, and everyone is welcome and everyone is appreciated. And I suppose I'd like to ask the poets, do you remember the first time you read a poem, and how you felt perhaps, and what you might say to that person if you were able to travel back in time and give yourself a little tap on the back and a whisper in the ear? What would you say to yourself when you were starting out? I'll give you a minute. Are you ready, Jenny, for that one?
I think so. Funnily enough, and it only occurred to me quite recently, looking back, that the first time I felt excited about poetry, but in a very unexpected way. I mean, we had a very good English teacher at school, you know, Robert Frost and all the greats in the canon, but it was in my Latin class where we were translating Lucretius, and I found myself, in translating him, writing poetry. And that was really exciting because it was reaching back and forward at the same time. And actually, I found myself writing a poem about Lucretius in East Jerusalem. It's another book. So yes, that was the first time that I was really excited, and I realized that there's a fusion between writing and translating, which has accompanied me all these decades.
Thank you. And Isaac, would you mind responding, please?
I suppose that the first time I read out loud a poem, I suppose that it was in the classroom as well. I can't recall it. The first time I read something that I wrote, I felt very nervous reading it. I'm still feeling that nowadays. So I would say to that boy, don't be afraid of that feeling, because it will be with you all the time. And yeah, don't be afraid of saying all the things that you want to say, and to express new things that you are learning during your journey through literature and the physical journey as well, through the world.
Fantastic, thank you, Isaac. And Ali, would you like to pitch in there?
Yes, well, I can give a shout out to the San Francisco iconic place. It's actually the longest running open mic west of the Mississippi. So Sacred Ground Cafe is I mean, truly, as the name says, it's sacred. And I can remember the first time I read there, and also give a shout out to Brett Benson, who is tuning in from California for this, another San Francisco poet. And the advice I would give myself is just to relax, take a breath, and just for myself, the only regret you might have about reading tonight is that you didn't start reading at this amazing place earlier. So go up there, enjoy, and read out loud in communities that receive you as often as you can.
Fantastic. I hope you do keep reading, and I really do look forward to your first collection. Big, warm hands together for Isaac, Xubín, Jennie Feldman, and Allie Rigby.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is the end of the lunch. I think we might go to the pub for a nightcap. I can't remember which pub we're going to. Psst. Paul Casey, where are we going to for a drink? Paul Casey.
It's small, isn't it? What's nearby? Fianbarras.
Fianbarras. Good to see you in the pub.